Welcome back to the Brantley Method. We're here with Coach Chris Cheeks from Boston College. We've discussed opportunities at the college coaching level. We've discussed what happens when guys finish their playing careers and transition into the coaching side, and guys becoming more than just a recruiter. And my focus, one of the things that I want to do here with this channel is spotlight guys that are doing a great job on multiple ends of the coaching spectrum, not just from recruiting and getting top players, but developing young men, developing leaders, developing guys that are going to change the landscape of our country when they're done playing the game. So excited to have Coach Cheeks on. I'm excited to have you join us here, and we'll talk a little bit about your journey and what got you to where you're at now and how that all came together. So thanks for coming on. I appreciate that.
Thank you for having me on, Justin. This has been a terrific journey for me, 24 years, and I've been at the highest level all the way down to the lowest level. So it's been a kind of a roller coaster ride, but it's been a great ride.
Understandable. So, your journey started. You played at VCU, and one of the most prolific scorers in VCU history. At what point did you know? You know what? When this thing's over and done with, I want to coach the game.
It was pretty short for me because when I finished playing, it was probably less than 2 years that I started coaching. I actually started it on the high school level, and I started as a freshman coach at Atlee High School. And then my second year, I was the JV coach. And then my third year, I got appointed the head varsity coach, and I was the youngest high school coach in the state of Virginia at the time. And then my fourth year, going into my fourth season, VCU called me and asked me would I come join them on their staff. And I was honored. Coach Sonny Smith gave me an opportunity as a young man to come play, work at his alma mater, and it was a no-brainer for me because I didn't have to relocate or anything. So that was an easy transition. Then I went to work for Coach Smith for 5 years, and then I left Coach Smith. He retired my third year, and then Mac McCarthy came in, and I worked with Mac McCarthy for 2 years, and then I left and went to West Virginia in 2000 and worked for Gail Catlett for 2 years, and then he retired. So a couple of my bosses retired on me early on in my career, and but West Virginia was an unbelievable experience. Now going back to VCU was more of it was a wake up call because as you talk about the coaching aspect, VCU, everybody thought I was still a player because I was so young. And they treated me like a player because I was a former player and I was a really good player at VCU. So nobody looked at you and said, all right, Chris, he's an X and O guy. And, that's what I really wanted people to think. I wanted people to say, all right, that's Chris Cheeks. He's a really good coach, not just a Chris Cheeks, the recruiter. And I never really had that diverse opportunity at VCU because of how young I was and the opportunity that presented itself for me.
Well, you touch on something that I think is commonplace for black coaches in the industry, and I think that it's something we've talked about it, and it's become a hot button of sorts, but we haven't really identified a solution to the issue, right? Of getting over the hump of them seeing us as just recruiters. Would you say from your experience and you starting from early on saying, hey, I want to be known as a really good coach, was there a lot of development stuff? Was there a lot of, what did you do to kind of separate yourself from being known or being seen as somebody who can go out and get players to somebody that can coach and develop them up?
Well, it all depends on who's your boss, who's going to give you an opportunity to present yourself on the court. And I was lucky enough early on that Sonny Smith and Gail Catlett, those guys gave me an opportunity to be on the court and do scouting reports and run drills and present the game plan to the teams. So it started early for me, and I was lucky because some guys they could go 15, 18 years and not ever do a scouting report. And to me, that's an important aspect when you start talking about developing the transition into becoming a head coach. Um, and I think that's very important. And when I was at West Virginia, they also gave me an opportunity to go out and speak in front of the alumni. I would go out on my own to Charleston, West Virginia, to Washington D.C. and speak in front of 2,000 people, talking about the upcoming season. So it was a great experience there. I go to Georgia State, and Mike Perry, he gave me the same thing. I mean, he came in, he said, "Hey man, you're an experienced guy. I want you to coach. I don't want you just to be a recruiter. I want you to do everything for our program." And so I've been fortunate. And then I worked at Georgia State for 3 years, and then I left there, went to UNC Charlotte, and Bobby Lutz he allowed you to do everything to become a head coach because he wanted to produce head coaches. He wanted young guys who had an ambition to become head coaches. And that's why I think Bobby Lutz was so good with his staff and the players, because everybody respected what he was trying to do. Then after UNC Charlotte, I went to work for DC Assault, where I was a 16 under U coach for 1 year. And then after DC Assault, the University of Delaware called me and asked me to come Monte Ross. And I go to Delaware, and Monte, of course, I'm a veteran guy. Monte, he was like, "Hey man, come in and help our young guys. I want you, to mentor these guys and, see if we can't take them to the next level." And we were able to take them to the next level because we had the best 4 years in Delaware's CAA history, which was, outstanding time. We went to the NCAA tournament and had a couple of other opportunities to play in postseason. But so after Delaware, I went to Western Kentucky for 1 year, and then Jim Christian had called me here at Boston College to come to Boston and work in the ACC. And, just seeing the ACC, how fast the game is,
Mm-hmm.
I think every assistant coach in the ACC is ready to become a head coach for one reason. Because when they're on the sideline in the ACC, the game is played so fast. You have to learn to adjust on the move, and you have to coach on the move. So it helps young guys like myself and the other assistants in the league get ready to move over that one seat because of the speed of the game.
What would you say from, obviously you mentioned you had some great head coaches to learn under that were, willing to give you the opportunities to develop and grow. But outside, from an external standpoint, what would you say is there or is lacking from a standpoint of preparing guys that have that interest or want to, eventually become a head coach? Is there enough for us, for black assistants, especially young black assistants coming into the game? Is there enough, resources designed to educate them in the different things that you're not going to just learn on the fly?
Well, there's different resources. You just have to take advantage of all the resources in front of you. And also, you have to learn to, I think as a young guy, you have to learn to mingle with your administrators, because those are the people who make the decisions. And those are the people who are getting athletic director jobs across the country. So I think, part of it is we have to build relationships at a young age and get to know people, advocate yourself.
For sure, for sure. As far as the scouting reports and the X's and O's, is that something that do you have younger guys that reach out to you outside of Boston College and say, "Hey, coach, I know you've been doing this for a while. What are some pointers you have for me?" Do you have those type of conversations with guys?
Absolutely. More than you can imagine. Being in the ACC, you probably get, especially during the season, a lot of young guys will, email me and call me and ask could they come to practice. Is it any plays that we may have that we can, exchange? And they all want tips. What can I do, coach, to, try to prepare myself? And I try to give those guys as much knowledge as possible because I want to be a mentor to those guys like guys were mentors to me.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I think that that's one of the things. I mean, when I look at the industry and when I look at the business, one of the things that I love the most about it is guys like yourself that, I never get no, right? Like, when I'm in Boston, I say, Coach, I'm around. I want to come check out practice. It's not you know what? Today's not a good day, or we got something going on. You're that first one to say, hey, come on out to practice. And then when it's done, let's go have dinner.
That's right.
And I think that's something that we need to do for just for each other, to give each other the guidance and the direction and also the encouragement, because I bump into so many guys, specifically younger guys on the grassroots level or the high school level that want to be college coaches, but they don't even know where to start, or they don't think that they have a shot because maybe a couple years went by and they didn't jump right into being a graduate assistant, or they just don't know how to get their foot in. And I tell guys, hey, pick up the phone, just reach out.
Hey, I tell guys all the time, we're not going to turn you away. If you want the knowledge, you got to come and get it. And if you want to be on this level, or if you want to be on the college level, you have to be around college coaches and get to know some college coaches, because that's the only way people are going to feel comfortable hiring you. You have to sell yourself in terms of, okay, this is Pepsi Cola over here on the left. You got Coca-Cola on the right. Which company do I want to work for? Do I want to work for Pepsi? Well, I got to present myself to Pepsi in a way where Pepsi is going to hire me. Or do I want to work for Coca-Cola because I got to present myself in a way where I think Coca-Cola is going to put me in position to hire me one day. So I tell guys, hey, come to practice, take notes. Just don't come in practice and, just hanging out. Come in and take notes and learn some stuff, get some drills, ask questions, come in for to watch video with us. One thing about Coach Christian I love about him is, he's open. He's an open book. He invite guys in all the time. So it's an easy process for us.
Well, let me ask you, you mentioned earlier just the speed of the game when you get to the ACC level. It's like being on the freeway and everything's moving in that fast lane. One of the things, so obviously you touched on that, and you touched on how that prepares you, for that next level. I'm going to take it one step further. Being at a high academic program, how does that change the dynamic of the type of kids you recruit, and being able to find players that fit, not just fit what you guys do on the court, but fit what's needed and what's required of the university?
Well, first of all, any young man that we recruit here at Boston College has to be able to fit into the community first. That's the number one question. Can that young man fit Boston College community? And, a lot of kids, when you go in to recruit them, when they don't fit the community, we just keep going, because it's a whole different process we have to do here from an academic standpoint. If a guy is averaging a 2.0 and 800 on the SAT, it's going to be tough for him to get in school here at Boston College as opposed to another ACC school. So it's all a part of doing your homework early and trying to identify the kids that are Boston College caliber kids, academically as well as athletically.
Absolutely. And when I was there last year, and we sat down, we talked about that. The benefits to that level of education, there's something that lasts for the rest of your life, right? Like, it's something that you'll look back on, and just the alumni base and the type of, the atmosphere, and like you said, the community. I absolutely love it on campus there. One of the things that being well traveled, and I spend a lot of time in Boston. You hear a lot about you hear a lot about racial animosity in the city of Boston. Is that something that you've encountered or your players have encountered while at Boston College?
Well, knock on wood, I haven't encountered any racial activity here at Boston College, but I hear stories about people in the city of Boston that they've encountered. One of the baseball players had mentioned that he overheard the fans yelling racial slurs at him, but me as an assistant basketball coach at Boston College, I've never heard any racial remarks here at Boston College, and none of the players since I've been here have said anything. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I think that once again, that's a testament to the community, right? And the community that you're trying to find the right kids to fit into. And with that being said, obviously, I mean, at this point in time in the United States where we're at currently, are those conversations that you guys have had with with the players and just discussed while you're at home before you get back on campus, let's just have some conversations and some open dialogue. Is that something you guys are doing?
well, one of the things we talked about was when you're back at home and let's say you out at a protest and someone gets up in your face, learn to keep a cool head. Just walk away if you have to, because it only takes 10 seconds to mess up your reputation, and you want to keep your reputation clean. And we talked about don't be afraid to speak your mind. That's one of the things that Coach Christian talked about with the team. We have a team mission statement, and he came out and he told the guys, hey, I want each guy on this team to prepare yourself for life. And one of the things we talked about with the team was November the 3rd, we want to make sure each guy, when they get back on campus, we want to make sure they're able to vote on November the 3rd. And it's just preparation, because don't wait till the last minute to get all your paperwork in, and you get delayed and you can't vote. So when you get back in August, let's get the ball rolling and let's start becoming the man.
Right.
Because
What would you say? So it sounds like leadership and dialogue is open between the players and the coaching staff, and everybody's kind of understanding that there are some things that happen within our country that we can't control. There's different areas of life that and that's part of growing up, and that's part of becoming a man, is understanding that you don't control everything, but what you do control is how you react to it. You do control, how you allow it to shape or impact your life. So it's great to hear that you guys are having that dialogue, and that coach is allowing the guys and encouraging the guys to have a voice and to speak up, but at the same token be smart about how they're carrying themselves and how they're handling themselves off campus. Would you say that this has been one of the more difficult off seasons for you, as far as with guys being away due to COVID, with not being able to get out and recruit like we're used to?
Well, 2020 is the toughest year in my coaching career, because obviously the pandemic, the COVID-19, which we had no control over, and then you take the George Floyd incident, and it just escalated. So you put all that in a bottle, and now it's just so much to worry about. We gotta talk to our kids about being safe,
Right.
and not going to gyms where other guys are, and making sure you're testing right. Make sure that you're staying out of large crowds. Make sure you're wearing your safety mask. And now the protesting comes, and now you're in protests, and most of those guys live in major metropolitan cities. So you're in a protest where there's 60,000 people, but how can we tell our guys not to go protest because this cause for the protest is bigger than anything that we could tell them.
Right.
Because as a black man, you have to be a part of that because the movement.
Absolutely.
You can't miss this opportunity because of the movement. So it's been like catch 22.
Right. Right. And you know, it's one of those things that, you know, I loved hearing, you know, you just said that this movement is bigger than the game of basketball. And I think that, you know, I think that when you have, when I look at, I have a 14-year-old son, and when I look at who I'm going to entrust my son to when it comes time to send him off to college, and I think, you know, you and I have had this conversation before. It's less important to me about what type of basketball player is that coach going to make my son, and more important to me, you know, what type of man is he going to become underneath your leadership. So, you know, hearing that, hey, yeah, we want to make sure that you're in shape and ready to go on the court when it's time to come, but most importantly, you know, I need you to be able to voice your opinions, express yourselves. I need you to be able to stand up for, you know, your rights and your, you know, who you are as a man. So those are things that, you know, I think as a parent, I love hearing, and kind of, you know, when I look at the full package of what not only a program brings to the table, but a coaching staff brings to the table, from your perspective, and let's flip it around. Go ahead.
Before you say that, just last week, I have a 16-year-old daughter, and she came in and said that she wanted to go up to the high school because they were going to march from the high school to the police station, the entire student body. Wow. So we were like, oh, okay, all right. And, you know, everybody was going to wear black T-shirts, and they were going to have their Black Matter signs. So she made a sign up, and, you know, she went out there and walked. And my wife actually went out and walked with her. And when she got up to the police station, there's 2,000 students up there. And, you know, we live in a predominantly white neighborhood. And how about one of the students asked her to come up and speak? So she went up on behalf of, you know, all the African-American students in the school, and she did a terrific job. So I had to put that in there because I was very proud of her for doing that.
Well, I mean, that's a sign of leadership, right? And that's a sign of, you know, you're not just preaching it when you're sitting down there talking to a family about, you know, what you're going to do for their child. You know, you're molding and shaping and molding your own children. You know, from your perspective, just because I want to kind of educate and you know, put up and coming coaches, you know, a little bit of dialogue and a little bit of understanding. You know, when it comes to juggling and maintaining the sense of family and being a father, you know, how have you handled that and navigated through that as an assistant coach throughout your journey?
Well, first of all, you have to put God and family first. Then once you do that, the rest is easy because He's going to guide you to do all the right things. And you know, with me, it's been easy because I'm a very disciplined person, and I'm very I do the same thing over and over and over, and it actually drives my wife crazy, but that's just the way I am. You know, I get up early, and, you know, I like to have stuff organized. I give you an example. Like when this is my scout, I'm in the office by 7 a.m. You know, I'm in there. I want to be prepared. You know, I'm gonna study the night before. You know, I want to study my opponent. I want to watch as much film as possible. So I just want to be sharp because players ask you some of the off the wall questions. Hey, coach, can this kid go left from 20 feet? No, he can't dribble. But you have to be prepared, you know, because as soon as the kid, you know, beats you from 20 feet, then the kid gonna look at coach. You said he couldn't do that. So you just have to be prepared at all times for what these kids are gonna ask you. and you have to do your research and learn, synergize these guys, make sure that you're on top of everything that you do.
For sure, for sure. And what, throughout your journey, what would you say has been the one thing that's made it, now I wouldn't say easier because none of it's easy, but has helped you along the way? What's the most important? So obviously allowing God to lead your life and step in and give you the balance. But what would you say is another must-have for a guy that's saying, hey, you know what, I want to embark on this journey? What's something that they need to do to set themselves in the direction to be successful?
Well, you have to build relationships, with high school coaches, AAU coaches, prep school coaches. You just have to have a lot of relationships because those are the guys that's going to help you along the way. I don't care how big you get, how low you get, they're going to help you in some aspect. So I think the more relationships you can build, the better you become as a coach in college.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I tell people that all the time. I think that, it's not necessarily, people say, oh, it's not what you know, it's who you know. I think it's a little bit different. I think it's who knows what you know, right? Like, guys have to know you in order to trust you, in order to say, I'm going to send my player to you. And without that level of trust, sometimes okay, hey, I know this guy over here and I know he's going to take care of my kid. So, that's where I'm going to send him. And it might not necessarily be the right fit for the player. As far as finding, and obviously it's different from different spots and different spaces that you've coached at, but now at Boston College, what's the first thing when you're scouting a player, what's the first thing that you're looking for to identify if he's a good fit for you?
Well, you look at, is he a good person first? You watch his mannerism on the sidelines, because we all know what kids can do when they get on the court. But what are you doing behind the scene? Are you are you a distraction on the bench? Are you a cancer in the locker room? Or are you a good kid in the community? And you can pretty much tell by watching their mannerism during the course of the game. Are you, if a kid make a pass, somebody go in and score, is he happy for that young man? Or is it just about him? You miss me on the pass, but somebody else scored and you get upset.
Right.
To me, that's the selfish person. So to me, that's what I look for. I look for guys that are going to be really good teammates, because you're talking about building a championship caliber team. You have to have good teammates.
For sure, for sure. And guys that are willing to sacrifice their individual success for the success of the team. And how important of a factor, how much does social media play in identifying that character of the student athlete you're recruiting?
Social media is everything, because we go back 3 years ago. I'll give you an example. Jerome Robinson was tearing ACC up, and he was going through the whole NBA process. One of the teams asked him, they said, Jerome, can we get your Twitter feed? So Jerome gives them the Twitter feed, and they go back and look at tweets from college to high school, because they're trying to determine what kind of person you are. Are you a good locker room guy, or are you a bad locker room guy? Are you awful in the media? Can we take this? Can this guy go into a middle school or high school or hospital and represent our NBA team? So that was probably the most interesting thing that somebody has ever said to me, when they went back 10 years to watch and see his character. What kind of character does he have?
For sure.
So it stuck with me.
For sure. So it sounds like there's a lot of different dynamics that go into making a successful tenure and career in college coaching. And obviously a big part of it is being able to recruit, it's being able to find the right players. But a larger part sounds like personal development and becoming a better coach and working on your craft so that you can be able to coach up and develop the players that you're working with. One of the things that I always like to do when I end an interview is I like to ask somebody what piece of advice would they give their younger self. So, if you were sitting here and you're talking to Chris Cheeks, who, just took his first job, that freshman coaching job, knowing everything you know now, what's the one thing you tell yourself to prepare you for this journey?
Well, the one thing I would tell myself is to continue to get knowledge. And what I mean by to continue to get knowledge, whatever gym you walk into, always take notes. I walk into high school practices and I see a drill. It may be a drill I want to implement in our practice. So just always continue to soak up information. Never think you're too big to soak up information.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Coach, I appreciate you taking some time out of your day. I think that, from my perspective, I've built a platform that, I believe has the opportunity to share some of that knowledge and give some of these guys an opportunity. They may not know who, Chris Cheeks was prior to this, but now they know, okay, hey, I can reach out to Coach when I'm in the area and go in and watch a practice and learn and get educated on the way Boston College does things. And, maybe and hopefully that will inspire a young coach to say, you know what, Coach said, show up, give me a call, send me an email. And I think that that's something that just isn't discussed a lot. I think a lot of guys don't realize that opportunity exists to just be able to, as a young coach, say, hey, I want to come learn from you.
Right. And, we tell young guys all the time, don't be afraid, man. Only thing we can tell you is no. I mean, it's just like recruiting. You have to recruit a kid until the kid tell you no.
Right.
So it all is hand in hand.
Well, I remember when I
remember back when I was the high school coach.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I just remember back when I was a ninth grade coach, going in to watch VCU practice. And then I would go up to watch Randolph-Macon practice. They had a guy named Hal Nunley, and Hal Nunley had been at Randolph-Macon for like 30-something years. Was a legendary Division III coach, and I said, I want to go up there and watch him, watch his practices so I can conduct my practice similar to him, because he's had so much success over the years that I can learn some stuff from him. So I went up and watched his practices for 2 days, and actually we implemented his defense. I never told him, rest in peace, coach, but we implemented his defense that year as a ninth grade coach.
Well, and that's, those are the things that we never forget when people give us an opportunity. And one of the reasons why you were the first one I reached out to and I said this is something I wanted to do was I remember, and I think that a lot of people say things, but living what you say, right? And your actions matching what you have to say. I remember when I reached out to you after I left, there was a drill that you guys ran that I loved. And I said, hey, Coach, and I was asking you, and I'm like, I'm going to write it down. You said, no, we'll get it emailed over to you. And you sent me the whole practice, and I'm sitting there watching it for the next week and I was able to take that and not only educate myself, but I was able to throw it on the screen for my guys and say, hey, you say you want to play at the ACC. Look at how hard these guys are practicing,
Right. We invite teams into practice because, a lot of young coaches, they want to show their kids how to work hard and go through practices at a certain speed because, as a young teenager, you want to do it your way. And sometimes doing it your way is not the right way. So, you get a lot of teams that come in and, those kids, they leave and they're like, wow, the speed of the game. And, man, I got to pick my stuff up. I got to get in shape. I got to get stronger. It's a different dynamic.
For sure. All right, well, Coach, I appreciate you. I really do. I'm excited to see, where this platform goes, and as I continue to bring guys on. But with you being the first in this series, I definitely thank you. I thank you for the opportunity. I thank you for taking time out of your day. Time's the most valuable asset any of us have. So once again, I couldn't do it without you. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the coaches like yourself that have mentored me and guided me along the way and told me yes when they could have told me no, and gave me pointers. So I really appreciate that, Coach.
Well, thank you for your time and continue to be a blessed young man.
Hey, thank you, Coach. We'll talk soon.
Thanks.
All right.